YouTube, what is going on? We are back for another lift, and today we're actually changing things up quite a lot. We're going off the script, so to speak, with the plan, as I originally did have a back focus day, so a pull day planned for today, but instead my back is feeling just that little bit tight coming off the off day. So I am instead going to switch up to a push, and based on some of my posing that I've been doing over the last couple of days, I honestly felt like chest might be the weak point now. I don't know. You'll have to let me know. Check out some of my images on TikTok that I've posted up on there, because I'm posting more of my posing progress. Just occasionally, not being overboard with it. Nobody needs to see a half-naked dude every day. But basically, I feel like it's chest that's actually lacking now, especially in some of my front poses. And so instead of doing back after both recovery days, now I'm going to do a chest day after this recovery day instead, and go back to a push legs pull split, which is honestly, I still think that's my favorite format. I did switch it up because I did want back to come off the off day, but I think that's how I'm going to start rolling with the next few weeks, is have a pull after one off day and then a push after the other off day. For me, I just want to separate those lower body and back sessions, so either going lower body before the back, or having at least a buffer day between back and lower body, so having that push day. That's kind of what format we've been running, but that's just personal preference. The science behind that really is just more so that you're going to use back to stabilize a lot more in your lower extremity work. So if you think about doing a hip hinge pattern, your erectors are in there, deadlifts, squats, all of those things. Now, if my leg day was just purely isolated joint actions, knee extension, leg curl, adductors, abductors, then I could probably get away with having the back day right before the leg day. But again, I've generally found that doing it the other way around, the leg day doesn't limit my back day as much as the back day limits my leg day, if that makes any sense. And that's where I feel like what I've been seeing online recently is that thought process behind doing your isolated joint work first on leg days with knee extensions, and then doing your compound exercise. But honestly, from a personal experience, I've never found that order to be the right one, and now there's research that's come out saying that kind of pre-exhaust technique actually might not be beneficial and might hinder some of your sets and rep ranges and intensities in your compound exercises. I've always found that I can still maintain whatever I had on the program in my leg extension as a set B. And then the thing is, people are going to be like, well, leg extension gets all four quads, it's all four heads, whereas the compound exercises, it doesn't, it only hits the three heads because of the hip flexion moment. And so you're right, but you got to think about it. One of those heads, right, in terms of the knee extension, isn't getting worked as hard in the compound exercises. So do you want to pre-exhaust all four, or just three, and then you get a bit more target musculature to the one that is actually actively working? So my theory with all of that is that we are probably going to get better targeted rec fem load after the compound exercises. Now, I don't have data to suggest that that's going to be better for hypertrophy, but what I do have is anecdotal experience and coaching experience of putting this in for other people, and you can normally hit your intensities for both of those two lifts in that order, versus if I go so intense in my leg extensions, normally my compound exercises suffer. So then it begs the question whether you need the compound exercises at all, how many sets, things like that. Again, we don't really know. Anybody who's telling you that, oh, you only need 2 sets for this muscle, you only need 4 sets for this muscle, they've overinterpreted science. They haven't really got the true message of the papers that they're reading this from, because we don't know exactly how many sets is effective. What we do know is that there is a relationship between volume and hypertrophy. Where that upper threshold is for every single individual, not really sure. There's stuff out there that's 52 sets per week for a muscle group and still shows growth. So again, we don't really know. One thing we do know is that one set probably isn't enough, right? So that's my one thing where it's like, I get this kind of thought process around frequency and training and stuff, but I'm still not convinced that higher frequency training is superior to lower frequency training that just does more sets. Even in the load match conditions, I just don't think that it is that big of a difference, despite what some of these bigger time influencers and even some scientists might tell you. So in terms of that, that's today's little rant, and it wasn't really even related to what we've got going on in terms of chest day. The one thing I will ask you guys, chest day, are you only doing flies, are you doing pushes, or both? You'll see in my video I'm doing both, but other people out there are only doing flies. Some people swear by pushes, so let us know in the comments which one you are doing, and we will see you in the gym for our push day workout. Alright, we made it to the gym, which means we got a simple little warm-up, which is going to be shoulder press. So just do a couple of sets of shoulder press. Now we have a bit of a chest shoulder hybrid day today. We'll switch up from our back day that we had planned, and we're going to do a couple of different movements that we haven't started the sessions in the past with, just to kind of switch things up a little bit and honestly focus on some areas that I feel like I need to bring up just that little bit more. So that's kind of the thought process around it. Now with this warm-up, not going to go too crazy. It doesn't have to be a super amount of weight. You can do way more. I'm just more so using it as a bit of a range of motion, mobility, and slightly shoulder biased kind of activation in a sense. Alright, so we've joined the hype train that is using our wrist wrap to perform this exercise. I'm actually gonna switch up the point of attachment because I want it to be on this side of the cuff. And so still using a slightly lower point of attachment, so I still want a slightly longer lever arm. That was a feeder set, and then we'll increase the weight. We're going to go about 5 to 6 reps, hopefully will be the range that we hit. Take a little hydration break. We can put the cuff a little higher if we want. The only thing that I found with this one is it gets loose and it falls down my arm a little bit. So a little rest. You notice we're going single side right now just because of the cable stack in terms of that format. and take this watch off, which we could go 2 arm if we do have a dual cable. I just don't have 2 cuffs with me right now. And the beauty of this is we can hit weak side first, so we're not getting any bilateral. All right, take a little bit more rest for this next set. Last set here, I'm gonna make the strap a little more loose so I can put an attachment a little higher if I can. It's the only thing with this thing that's kind of finicky. There we go. Oh, I need to be the other way around in there. We got some low incline presses next. And I know that some people are going to be like, oh my god, not the low incline, you're not hitting upper pec as much. And if you'll notice, we just did the clavicular pec with those raises. So now, like kind of more raise fly, low fly type variation. So now what we're going to train is a little bit more lower incline, so we get more of a traditional AB to adduction position, a little less focused on the flexion, but also there's a little bit of flexion moment in there. And we'll mess around a little bit with elbow position, but we got 2 sets, then we're going to go to flat bench, so that'll be kind of like the progression there before then we hit a high pec fly. So we kind of like go the whole continuum. Could I do a slightly higher incline bench? Yeah, probably. My thing is that we actually do have some shoulders in an accessory exercise, so we're kind of getting that as well in there. So don't need too much of the same thing in the same program. Alright, that's set 1 done. We're aiming for a little bit higher volume on these. So roughly about 75% of my max in that 8 to 12 rep range. I think that was 8 reps, maybe 9. I always lose count over 2 or 3 reps anyway. So we're going to take a little short break, 2 minutes-ish rest, and then we hit the next set. Set 2.
That was failure. Now, luckily for me, failing in that bottom position, I now am going to flat bench, so the bar should hopefully be in the correct position for me. Let's put the bench down. Ooh. So we did that last 2 sets in that 15-degree bench angle, and I'm still a proponent of mixing in different variations like the low incline from time to time. Would it be my number one if I could only choose one push exercise and only do that? Probably not. I would probably then do the more 30 to 50 degree incline bench, depending on which incline you got. Typically it's a 45, so I'd normally be in those ranges, but from time to time, going down to the 15, going down and going up as well to the 60 and more, and kind of making it a bit more shoulder press. I think varying those length tension relationships is what's important for total muscle fiber hypertrophy, rather than targeting exactly the same fibers every single time you train. So that's my thought process behind that. Now, probably gonna do a small add here for the flat bench, and then we've got 2 sets of that as well. So kind of hit the 2 sets of incline, 2 sets of flat bench, roughly about 2 minutes in between each one. And so we'll do a little add here. Flat, incline, press. That felt tasty, for sure. Get our breath back here. And so, touching back on what I just said, I feel like we've kind of gone a little fly crazy now because we want pure adduction. And then we got the other side of the internet where it's fly crazy because we want shoulder adduction and flexion to hit the upper pec. And while having big upper pecs is certainly a desirable, we shouldn't be forgetting that 2/3 of the pecs that are even bigger, that mid portion and the bottom portion, the more costal pecs, are actually what really give us a lot of size and definition too. And I would say actually of my pecs, both upper and lower sections, probably not well developed as well as the mid section. So that's why, again, throwing in some exercise variations on those weak points, whereas traditionally probably would have primarily just focused on one position, like a flat bench, like an incline bench, like a fly. Now mixing it up, get more exposures of those different length tension relationships. That's where I think the gold lies at the end of the rainbow in terms of muscle hypertrophy. If you train in different positions, different joint angles, expose the muscle to longer lengths, shorter lengths to squeeze, then we're getting all types of contraction types, we're getting all types of force-velocity relationships. Therefore, our fibers have to work, our motor unit pool has to increase, and so that's why we do that. It doesn't mean that there's one that's kind of better than the other. There are probably some positions that target a little bit more of the total muscle unit as a whole, but not every muscle fiber is working for every contraction, otherwise we would experience tetanus and we would completely seize up. So there are always fibers that are kind of left a little bit more dormant, so to speak, and that's maybe because they're not put under a disadvantaged position. And so that's where kind of like only training in leverage positions might not actually be the most beneficial for at least force generation capacities of the muscle. And if the force generation capacities, mechanical tension, is the thing that we're looking for hypertrophy, then why wouldn't we chase more force, which would be sometimes less leverage? So we'll talk about that a little bit more, I think, in my back video, back day workout just because there is a couple of examples that are done around the internet that do that sort of stuff. So that's enough talking. Second set. Ooh, all right. That's what fatigue feels like. So, next exercise. Got a high to low fly, some more of that costal pec fly, and what we're aiming for here is a little bit more volume than what we have done in the other exercises. Last count there. And I like to do kind of face away, have the cable slightly behind me, and where I can. Sometimes I'll let the shrug happen, because maybe that gets a little bit more stretch, but other times I'll keep it pinned down, and so we're not getting any elevation, any shrug within the movement as well. So that's the thought process behind that. Again, respecting the rest on this one, and then we'll hit one more set. Then we're actually going to stay in this machine for a little while here, so that's nice. We're not having to bounce around the gym as much for different exercises. And that's typically how I try to program, but obviously sometimes machines are in different spots, and I try and make flow the most convenient way possible. Sometimes you'll notice in my programs, like I'll start on Smith, come back to the Smith later on. But if it is like a busy day, I'll just kind of bang out all my Smith stuff all in one. So always depends kind of on the day and how you're feeling, what the style is. I don't think exercise order is of a high importance as maybe we make it out to be, other than those exercises that you have at the front end of your lift should probably be the major muscle groups, your main primary targets, and then your accessory work should be kind of more, as it says, accessory and more weak points or muscles that you might not be necessarily directly targeting during your main session. So, enough talking. That's good there. All right, we get a little lateral raise, and then we'll go with some crossbody pushdowns. We only have one cuff, so we're actually using D handles for this instead. And we got a nice little Y raise. So get a little bit more rear delts out here. Oh, man. Probably should have took a little bit more rest between my shoulder lateral raises and the Y raises, but here we are. I think I hit 8 there, so we'll just do a little rest rep match on this, and then that's when we have our crossbody push down, which I don't know if everybody uses that exercise. I don't really know how I feel about it with kind of being in a more abducted position, but it's kind of tricep and delt in the same combo rather than more of a tricep, traditional tricep push down. So that's why we got it in there right now, because we haven't had that variation. So this is kind of more of a variation day within the kind of more push focus that we got going on. So again, plenty of chest, plenty of shoulders within our specific workout today. All right, let's get the second set. Oh, should have took my rest. Alright, we are in a bit of a time crunch here, so hit our push downs, tries and buys. So start with a little crossbody push down. And we're also going to go Bayesian curl superset. Whew. All right, what time are we on? Oh, we got plenty of time. So I like to finish this day off with buys and tries, because it technically was going to be our second lift of the program, but with the little switch up from not doing back, we're now keeping it as is, which works fine. I think I finished on left side.
and shoulder day. Little switch up. We're supposed to be back. We're going to allow the back to recover just that little bit, which maybe some people are going to be like, holy atrophy, you're actually going to go more than 2 days without hitting back again. Crazy. But honestly, we need to spend a little time reading about epigenetics and things like that, because there's still going to be a lot of genes that are still upregulated. So when I go and hit back again in a couple of days' time, I'm definitely still going to be maintaining gains. Now, am I leaving gains on the table? Remains to be a question, but honestly, from most recent posing, back is looking a little bit better than chest right now. So in terms of that days of accumulation, I think I can afford myself a little recovery, seeing as it seems as though I hit back pretty aggressively by judging off the soreness and things. So we're gonna figure it out with that one. And honestly, that session didn't feel all that too heavy. There was a good few different variations in there, which if you know me by now, I love a little exercise variation for my accessory work, but completely different chest format day to what we've had in the past. Didn't actually have a true horizontal adduction fly in today. We went a little bit more with the low to high fly, and then we obviously did the costal fly, whereas high to low, and emphasizing squeeze in the bottom. And so I think as I get a little closer to competition, I'm going to start doing a few more variations that focus on the positions of where I'm going to be posing in. So with those squeezes, we've got kind of like that front relaxed position. That would be somewhat where the high-low fly would come in terms of where my elbow position would be, where my shoulder position would be, all that different stuff. So you'll see it. I'll talk through it a little bit more as we get closer to it. But one thing I've learned from training athletes in sports is there's maybe too much specificity, but when your sport is isolated muscle contractions in terms of posing, then you should probably train in those positions too. That is my opinion. But this is my first go around of actually competing in bodybuilding, so what the fuck do I know, I guess. Anyway, we'll keep this one short and sweet. We're back again tomorrow. It might be late, depends how I feel. Most likely going to be a leg day, just based on how I like my personal preference format. So we'll see you in the next video. And make sure, if you got to the end of this one, you've hit subscribe, because if you're just watching and not subscribing, it makes no sense, right? You want to stay in contact with this video, you want to keep up to the date with the journey, so why not watch it all the way through and then subscribe? So make sure you're hitting that subscription button, because that helps this channel grow. If you can help me grow, I'll also help you grow, because I have training programs on ctsportscience.com, and that's where you can check out my own training, where you can get it for just $1 a day as well, which is crazy when you think about it. $365 for a whole year's worth of training, and training that is competition focused in terms of bodybuilding. So if your interest is muscle building and shredding and things like that, my program is for you. So make sure you check it out. Links are in the bio, links are in the show note description, and we'll see you in the next one.